Stick around and I'll show you how kitchen scraps can transform your garden.
It is the middle of March. You stand at the kitchen sink after Sunday breakfast. You scrape the plates into the trash. Coffee grounds from the morning pot, eggshells from the pan, a pile of banana peels, the papery outer skins of 3 onions. You twist the bag shut, carry it to the can at the end of the driveway, and that is the end of it. Later that afternoon, you drive to the garden center. You spend $22 on a bag of granular fertilizer. The bag has a picture of fat tomatoes on the front. You drag it home, follow the directions on the back. Scatter it around your beds and hope for the best. July comes. The plants are alive, they are growing. But the tomatoes are small and pale. The basil looks like it is just getting by. You spend another $20 on a liquid feed in a yellow bottle. You follow those directions too. By the end of the summer, you have spent close to $60 on fertilizer for a garden that gave you maybe $40 worth of food.
Imagine if all that waste turned into rich, dark soil instead.
The math never works out. It never has, and every fall you do the same thing you did in the spring. You bag up the leaves, the spent plants, the kitchen scraps. You put them at the curb for the truck to take away. Now, I want you to sit with this. Every one of those eggshells you threw away this year was carrying calcium. The same calcium that prevents blossom end rot in your tomatoes. The black sunken spot on the bottom of the fruit. It ruins a quarter of the harvest in home gardens across this country every summer. That calcium was already in your kitchen. You paid for it when you bought the eggs. And then you paid for it again at the garden center in a plastic bag. Every coffee ground you washed down the drain was carrying nitrogen, and a slight acidity that blueberries, azaleas, and tomatoes crave. The grounds were already paid for. They were already used. They had one more job left to do, and you sent them away. Every banana peel you tossed in the garbage was loaded with potassium. Potassium is the mineral that drives flower and fruit production in garden plants. It is the 3rd number on every fertilizer bag you have ever bought. The bag at the garden center is selling you the potassium your kitchen already made and threw out. There is no waste in a working farm kitchen. There never was. My name is Elias Yoder. I am Amish and I farm in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. My family has worked this same ground for 4 generations. My grandmother kept a crock on the counter beside the sink her whole life. Eggshells went in the crock. Coffee grounds went in the crock. Onion skins, tea leaves, wood ash from the stove in winter. At the end of the week, she carried that crock to the garden. She worked it into the soil around the beds. She never bought a bag of fertilizer in her life. Neither did her mother before her. The garden fed the kitchen, and the kitchen fed the garden. Nothing useful ever left the property if it could be helped. My wife Esther grew up the same way in her family's home 3 miles from here. Her mother had her own system, slightly different from my grandmother's, with a few tricks that Esther brought into our kitchen when we married. Between the two of them, they taught us something most American households have forgotten, that a working kitchen produces enough raw fertilizer every single week to feed a serious garden through the whole growing season, from the first transplants in May to the last tomatoes of October. Not some of what the garden needs, most of what the garden needs, for free. Today, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to do it. 5 common kitchen wastes that most American families throw away every single week. What each one carries in it that your garden soil is hungry for. How to prepare each one so the soil can actually use it. And how to build a simple system on your kitchen counter. It takes about 10 minutes a week and costs you nothing. The 5 things are eggshells, coffee grounds, onion skins, and tea leaves together. They work the same way. Banana peels and wood ash if you have a fireplace or a fire pit. 5 wastes, 5 different jobs in the soil. One simple habit connects your kitchen to your garden, the way it was always meant to be connected. Before the fertilizer companies convinced a whole country that the answer to a tired garden came in a bag, with a picture on the front. Not one of these methods is hard. Not one of them costs $1. Any person reading this right now can start the whole system this week with what is already in their kitchen. And never again pay $20 for something their breakfast already made. Let me show you how the old folks did it. It starts with the eggshells, because that is where my grandmother always started. Pick up the eggshell from this morning's breakfast. Hold it in your hand. It feels like nothing. Light, papery, barely there. You have thrown away 10,000 of them without a second thought. But what you are holding is almost pure calcium carbonate. More than 90% of an eggshell by weight is calcium carbonate, the same compound that limestone is made of, the same compound that commercial garden lime is made of, the same thing you will find in the bags at the garden center labeled soil amendment or calcium supplement, priced at $8 or $12 a bag. Your eggshells are that bag, every one of them. Here is why it matters. Calcium in garden soil does two things that nothing else can do. First, it holds the cell walls of your plants together. A plant that is short on calcium grows weak, soft tissue that bruises easily. It falls to disease faster, and cannot move water and nutrients efficiently from the roots up through the stem to the fruit. Second, and this is the one that costs home gardeners the most heartbreak every summer, calcium prevents blossom end rot. That black sunken leathery spot on the bottom of a tomato, a pepper, a zucchini, that is not a disease and it is not a pest. It is a calcium deficiency. The fruit could not pull enough calcium up through the plant fast enough while it was developing. The tissue at the blossom end collapsed. A garden with steady calcium in the soil does not have blossom end rot. My family has not lost a tomato to blossom end rot in longer than I can remember. The preparation is simple. Rinse the shells when you crack them so they do not smell. Let them dry on the counter or on a tray in a low oven for 20 minutes. Once they are dry and brittle, crush them. You can use a rolling pin, a coffee grinder, a blender, your hands. The finer the better. Whole shells take a long time to break down in the soil. Crushed shells work faster. Powder works fastest of all. My grandmother used a flat stone she kept on the counter beside the crock for exactly this purpose. She would crush the dried shells into a rough powder in 30 seconds while the coffee was still brewing. Keep a jar with a lid beside your sink. Dried, crushed shells go in the jar. When the jar is full, it goes to the garden. Work the shell powder into the soil around the base of your tomatoes, peppers, and squash at planting time. And again, once a month through the season. A small handful per plant is enough. You can also dissolve a tablespoon of very finely crushed shell powder in a gallon of water. Let it steep overnight. Water your plants with the liquid in the morning. The calcium moves into the root zone faster this way. The plants can draw on it during the critical weeks when the fruit is setting. Now, the coffee grounds. And this one surprises people because the instinct is that coffee is somehow too strong for a garden. It is not. Used coffee grounds, the spent grounds left in the filter after brewing, are one of the gentlest and most useful soil amendments a kitchen produces. They carry a small amount of nitrogen, which is the first number on any fertilizer bag you have ever bought, and the nutrient most responsible for green leafy growth. They carry a slight acidity, a pH between 6 and 6.5 on the used grounds, which is exactly the range that tomatoes, peppers, blueberries, roses, and most garden vegetables prefer. And they carry a physical texture, fine and crumbly, that improves the structure of compacted soil. It gives earthworms something to move through and feed on. A garden bed with regular coffee grounds worked into it over a season will have more earthworms than a bed without. More earthworms means better aeration, better drainage, better nutrient. Cycling. The earthworms do work in a garden that no bag of fertilizer can replicate. The preparation requires nothing. Scoop the used grounds out of the filter. Let them dry on a plate if you are adding them to a storage jar, or work them fresh and wet directly into the soil around your plants. Either way is fine. Fresh grounds can go directly onto the soil surface as a thin mulch, no thicker than a ½ inch, and watered in. They will break down within a week or two and feed into the root zone below. One caution. Do not pile the grounds on thick. A heavy mat of coffee grounds can form a crust on the soil surface that actually repels water rather than letting it through. A thin, even layer worked lightly into the surface soil is what you want. A handful per plant per week is plenty through the growing season. Esther keeps a second small container beside the coffee maker. The grounds from Monday go in, and by Friday there is enough for a full pass around the kitchen garden beds. It takes her less than 2 minutes a week. Now, the onion skins and the tea, because these two belong together and work the same way in the soil. The dry, papery outer skins of onions and garlic are something almost every American household throws away without a second thought. They look like trash. They feel like trash. They crumble in your hand and blow away in the wind, but they carry something valuable. Quercetin, a natural compound found in high concentrations in the outer skins of alliums, onions, garlic, shallots, leeks, has been shown in agricultural trials to act as a mild natural growth stimulant in plants when applied to the soil. Beyond that, the skins are rich in potassium, phosphorus, and a range of trace minerals that leach into the soil as they decompose. They also carry natural compounds that suppress certain soil-borne fungi and bacteria, the same pathogens that cause damping off in seedlings and root rot in established plants. The old way of using onion skins is a tea, and this is exactly what Esther's mother made every week in her kitchen from April through September. Fill a large pot or a bucket with water. Add a generous double handful of dried onion skins and garlic skins. If you have used tea bags or loose leaf tea, add those too. Black tea, green tea, herbal tea, it does not matter. Tea leaves carry tannins and trace minerals and a slight acidity that mirrors what the onion skins bring. Let the whole mixture steep for 24 to 48 hours at room temperature. The water will turn a deep amber brown. It will smell earthy and slightly sharp. That is correct. Strain out the skins and leaves, put them in the compost or work them directly into the soil. Use the liquid to water your garden beds. This onion and tea brew is not a replacement for the eggshell calcium or the coffee nitrogen. It is a supplement, a trace mineral drink for the soil. Esther uses it once every 2 weeks through the growing season, alternating it with plain water on the other weeks. She has done it this way for 30 years, and the soil in our kitchen garden is dark and loose and alive in a way that our neighbors who buy their fertilizer in bags cannot quite explain when they walk through and look at the difference. The three together, the eggshell calcium, the coffee nitrogen, the onion and tea mineral brew, form the foundation of what our kitchen sends to the garden every single week. 3 waste streams that cost nothing, require almost no time to prepare, and between them cover the 3 most important nutritional needs of a productive vegetable garden. Calcium for cell structure and fruit development. Nitrogen for strong green growth. Trace minerals and natural compounds to keep the soil biology alive and the pathogens suppressed. Not $1 spent, not 1 bag from the garden center, just the things your kitchen was already making and throwing away. Pull a banana peel off the counter. The one from this morning, or yesterday, already browning at the edges and heading for the trash. It is soft, it smells sweet, and it looks like it has no use left in it. Most American households throw away somewhere between 2 and 5 banana peels every single week without a second thought. Over a growing season from April to October, that is somewhere between 50 and 140 peels going into the garbage from a single kitchen. Every one of them is carrying potassium. Potassium is the 3rd number on every fertilizer bag you have ever picked up at the garden center. Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. N, P, K. The 3 numbers printed large on the front of every product in that aisle. You have spent money on potassium every time you have bought a bag of tomato food or vegetable fertilizer or bloom booster. Potassium is what drives flowering and fruiting in garden plants. It is the mineral responsible for the plant's ability to move water efficiently through its tissues, to regulate the opening and closing of its pores, to build the sugars that make fruit taste like something worth eating. A tomato plant short on potassium produces fruit that is small, pale, bland, and thin-skinned. A tomato plant with steady potassium through the fruiting season produces heavy, dense, deeply colored fruit with that rich flavor that used to be the whole reason for growing your own in the first place. A fresh banana peel is between 35 and 50% potassium by dry weight. That is not a folk remedy number. That is agricultural chemistry. The peel of a single banana contains more usable potassium than most commercial liquid fertilizer doses recommend per plant per feeding. Your kitchen throws that away every morning. The preparation the old way is a peel tea, and it is almost exactly the same method Esther's mother used for the onion skin brew. Take your banana peels, fresh or dried, it does not matter. 3 or 4 peels per gallon of water is a good starting ratio. Put them in a jar or a bucket, cover them with water, and let them steep for 48 hours at room temperature. The water will turn pale yellow or light brown. It will smell faintly sweet and slightly fermented after the second day. That is the potassium leaching out of the peel tissue and into the water. Strain out the peels. Add them to your compost or bury them directly in the soil between your plants where they will finish breaking down within 2 weeks, and use the liquid to water your fruiting plants. Use the banana peel tea once every 2 weeks from the time your tomatoes and peppers first start to set flowers through to the end of the harvest. This is the exact window when potassium matters most, when the plant is putting its energy into building fruit rather than building leaves. Alternate it with your plain watering days and your onion tea days, and between the 3 liquid feeds you are covering almost everything a productive vegetable garden asks for through a full season. There is a second preparation that is slower but even simpler. Dry the peels. Lay them out on a tray in a warm, dry place on top of the refrigerator, on a sunny windowsill in a low oven at the end of baking day when the heat is dying down.